So, as for the question, would I recommend the book? I honestly don't think I would. I mean, I can see why other people enjoy it. It just, as I said, it wasn't really for me, and I think I probably would enjoy it more as a film rather than a book. Hi everyone, my name is Terry Westwell and today is Tuesday, which means it's time to discuss our Panic at the Book Club book of the week, which is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you like romance, fantasy, or even thriller, basically anything fiction book related, then I suggest you head on over to the channel's intro video, where you can find out more information on how you can take part in this online book club. We announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Post your comment below a video, send in a voice note, or even send me a short video clip of you discussing the book. Alternatively, you can just send me a direct message. Aging and reclusive Hollywood movie icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth on her glamorous yet scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique for the job, nobody is more astounded than Monique herself. Why her and why now? Monique is not exactly on top of the world. Her husband left her and her professional life is going nowhere. Regardless of why Evelyn has selected her to write her biography, Monique is determined to use this as an opportunity to jumpstart her career. Summoned to Evelyn's luxurious apartment, Monique listens in fascination as the actress tells her story. From making her way to LA in the 50s, to her decision to leave the show business in the 80s, and of course, her 7 husbands along the way. Evelyn tells a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendships, and a great forbidden love. Monique begins to feel connected to the legendary star, but as Evelyn's story nears a conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects Monique's in a way that is tragic and irreversible. So this is a spoiler-free part where first we'll discuss any spoiler-free points before moving on to a clearly marked section of the video which will contain spoilers and more specifics about the book. As usual, let's start with those chapter lengths. For one, I'm quite glad that I read this one as an audiobook, and not just because it's not my usual sort of read, so I do think that it helped me enjoy the book that little bit more, but also because the chapter lengths were wildly inconsistent. Like, some chapters would just be a couple of minutes long, and then all of a sudden you'd get one that was like an hour long. I don't know if it was the same in the physical book, but yeah, if I had to choose one word, it would probably be varied, and that would be an understatement. When I first picked this book up, I actually had no idea what it was about. Probably like everyone else, I just saw it everywhere on social media, and I'd actually had this one on my bookshelf for probably like around a year. As usual, I don't really look into what the book's about. In fact, usually I don't even bother with a synopsis unless it's a book that I'm reading outside of book club, so I went into this completely blind. You know, it's really not my usual sort of book. It's a fictional book about someone writing a biography, which kind of gave me conflicting emotions because it still very much gave a non-fiction atmosphere in a fictional world, if that makes sense. Like, I do usually like a contemporary romance, but in some ways this just felt a little bit too mundane, I guess. You know, it wasn't all that exciting, although the deeper that we got into the life of Evelyn Hugo, the more interesting it got. Like, we got a few twists, and I liked some of the important topics that ran throughout the story, like what it was like for someone like Evelyn Hugo to live in 1950s Hollywood and the complications that that might entail. I rated this book 3 stars. It wasn't at all a bad book. There were certainly parts about it that I did really enjoy. However, it just wasn't really my sort of read. I think I just need a little bit more of a sense of adventure or a suspense, something that's going to keep me hooked within the first sort of 25%. If I had to compare this to any other book, I'm not really sure what. Like, maybe something like Yellowface, although I think that one has a very different sort of psychological suspense build-up. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of the TV show Why Women Kill, which I absolutely loved. just because you get a unique perspective on these women's lives in different periods of time, including, what they may face in their careers or their relationships. Now we're moving on to that part of the video where I suggest if you haven't read this book yet, go do that first, because beyond this point there'll definitely be spoilers. This almost read as a biography of a woman who, granted, did live a rather interesting life. I loved that it became this LGBTQ story and how all their lives connected in the end. It was kind of sad and yet also kind of a beautiful book, but I don't know, it just didn't particularly have me gripped until maybe the last third. Not to mention that I didn't even really like any of the characters. Sure, I felt bad for them at times for what they unfairly had to endure, but they were still often assholes. I just feel like I didn't really root for any of the characters. I feel like it could have been this amazing love story going through the struggles of its times and prejudices, but in reality, the main love story in this was just also quite toxic and manipulative. And perhaps that was to be expected from the very beginning, with Evelyn's overall attitude and disappointing character. I liked the ending, and I even liked the twist with Monique's dad, although I did find it a little bit predictable. I didn't know exactly how it was going to connect, but I knew that it was going to in some way. I understand why it was written the way that it was, it's just at times I found it a little bit repetitive, and it just wasn't really for me. So, as for the question, would I recommend the book? I honestly don't think I would. I mean, I can see why other people enjoy it. It just, as I said, it wasn't really for me, and I think I probably would enjoy it more as a film rather than a book. So will I be reading any more by Taylor Jenkins Reid? I wouldn't rule out this author from this one read alone, however, I won't be reaching for another one anytime soon. That being said, if there's one you think I'll enjoy, then by all means let me know. But let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book?
Hi, so I am going to be honest with you. I really didn't think that I was going to enjoy this book as much as I did. I ended up rating this one a 5 stars. I was surprised. I just didn't think this was a book that I would ever pick up. I know that it's very popular and a lot of people love it, but it just didn't seem like the sort of book that I would ever enjoy. But how wrong was I? I absolutely loved the story. I wasn't a massive fan of Evelyn. I felt like she was, she was a bit spoiled, and I get that she was just out there. She wanted to get what she wanted. She wanted the fame, she wanted the money, and she would do anything to get that, hence having 7 husbands. But obviously, reading it now, I can see some of the husbands that she had was obviously a front for her love for Celia. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It was a twist that I didn't see coming. I am definitely going to be reading more from this author. I have already ordered a couple of books that are hopefully coming today because I really enjoyed her writing. Yes, the writing was very small within this book, but I did actually get through it faster than I thought I would. I was just so engrossed within Evelyn's story. I loved being in Hollywood in the 60s, and yeah, it was great. There was a twist at the end as well, which was really good. I didn't see coming. I enjoyed that aspect of it as well. And I'm going to be recommending this one to loads of people. I loved it. Really, really shocked.
This week we're discussing The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I actually listened to this last year, but Panic at the Book Club are doing it. I'm going to speak about it. I'm typically not an audiobook girl. I'd rather physically read a physical book. Nothing against it, that's just my preference. However, I did listen to The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The reason being is because I first heard about this book from Book Talk. I'm sure we're all the same. We all went to the works. We all picked it up. I read the back and I put it back down and I left it. It just didn't appeal to me at all. So I just thought, leave it whatever. And then I thought, you know what? I'll download it on Libby, listen to it. If I don't like it, send it back, no harm done, no price paid, I'm good to go. So I did that, started listening to it, that was it. Until the book had finished, that was me. I was set. I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was gonna. The back of the book really doesn't do it justice, and my favourite book in the world is a book that obviously I love, but the back of the book just does absolutely nothing for it at all. So it's a sort of similar situation with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The back of the book really just doesn't do it justice. There was so much in the book that I just genuinely was not expecting to be in there at all. For example, LGBTQ storyline. Was not expecting. One, because of the time period. I was obviously sort of expecting this diary of a Marilyn Monroe figure, which it is, but I wasn't expecting LGBT to come into it. One, because of the title, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That set it all off for me. And just the time period, I just wasn't expecting it, but I liked the fact that it was in there. So I don't know, I can't word it. It was just really good, and I just wasn't expecting it at all. Even though I did enjoy it, I'm glad that I listened to it rather than read it. Only because I worry that if I would have read it, I'd have got bored earlier on, and then I'd have had a completely different experience with the book altogether. Not because the beginning of the book was bad, but just because it would have taken me a little bit longer to get into it, just because it's not my typical style of reading. Style of book, whatever. As far as chapter lengths go, I can't really say because I listened to it. You don't really feel the chapter lengths when you're listening to it. So I'll just have to leave that one blank. However, I did like the fact that, I don't know if it was every other chapter or if every chapter was split into two or if it was just a bit more spontaneous, that there was parts of the book that was written sort of now time, like in the present, and then there were some parts that were from old Evelyn Hugo days, like 60s maybe, somewhere along them lines. And I really liked both sort of timelines, if you want. So I did really enjoy that. I'd recommend this book to anybody really, because I wasn't expecting to like it, but I ended up loving it. So even if you read the back and you think, nah, sounds a bit boring for me, give it a go, because that is exactly how I felt. I thought, nah, it's not for me, and then I absolutely loved it. So I'd recommend it to everyone.
Next week we're discussing Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So don't forget to get your thoughts and comments in by Sunday the 19th of January at the latest to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram or Discord. The following week we'll be discussing The Cabin at the End of the World, but don't forget, if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, we do now list the next 4 books down below along with the discussion dates. That way you can choose the genre that best suits you and the best time frame to read it in. Thank you all for joining, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's always appreciated, and I will see you next week. Bye!